Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the channel Learn with Danish. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe and hit the bell icon. Hi all. Today we would be discussing about Bassey Ikpi's poem Homeward. In the previous video, I had a very short introduction. I had discussed a very short introduction related to Bassey Ikpi, the Nigerian-born American writer. Bassey Ikpi was born in 1976, as you all know, and she was born in Nigeria. It was in her fourth year that she, along with her family, migrated to the United States of America at Oklahoma. In the year 1989, she moved on to Baltimore, Maryland, in Washington, D.C. At the age of 21, she moved to New York City after dropping her final year exams aside. And it was here that she came to touch with the louder arts movement, which was later called as the Deaf Poetry Jam. Deaf Poetry Jam is a hip-hop music series that was hosted by HBO under the producership of Russell Simon. Russell Simon used to do comedies which was titled as Deaf Comedies in the 1990s. Deaf Poetry Jam had a hit series from 2001 to 2007, and the writer that we are focusing on, that is Bassey Ikpi, had been with the tour of Def Jam Poetry from 2001 to 2004. It was in the year 2004 that Bassey Ikpi was diagnosed with bipolar II disorder in New York City, which she later on had mentioned publicly in different platforms, even relating to the article or the interview that she had given in the Huffington Post. As I told earlier, she was not born in America. You cannot call her as an American writer. She had just spent around 30 odd years in America. And during these years, she has emerged what is known as the American culture. Usually, when people travel to the United States of America, they tend to inculcate the culture of Americanism into their culture, basically fading off their native cultures slowly and imbibing to the new foreign American culture. Now let us look into the poem Homeward by Bassey Ikpi. Bassey Ikpi is a Nigerian writer, and in this poem she is trying to go back to her native country from the United States of America. She is in a particular conflict. She is in a conflict whether to choose America as her country or to choose Nigeria as her country. There's a problem that's going on in her mind, and that problem is not just related to Bassey Ikpi herself. We can see that she addresses her generations to come, her generations like her children also, with regard to this particular problem. The whole poem is a return to her grandmother, which she lost in the year 2011. Her grandmother passed away in the year 2011, 1 year before she arrives in Nigeria after a very long break, that is of 18 years. She was really sad when her grandmother passed away because she could not attend to her funeral. From that moment onwards, she makes up her mind that she would come back and return to Nigeria and work for the welfare of the people in Nigeria rather than getting her career established in the United States of America. Let us look into the poem Homeward. The first line itself: today I remember my grandmother. I'm staying here in New York, and I remember my grandmother as she attempts to connect with her second children. Second children indicates her grandchildren. So she's attempting to connect. So there's a problem there. Right from the start itself, there is a problem between the grandchildren and the grandmother. She's trying to connect with her grandchildren. She finds the only English word she knows. The only English word she knows indicates how ignorant is she in English language. But still she manages to come up with certain words that she has heard from her sons or daughters, right? And she tries to catch up these words and put up these words just like a grandmother does, just like an ignorant grandmother does in every household family of a language that she or he doesn't know. They try to grasp whatever language bits that they know, whatever language words that they know, and start to communicate. She finds the only English words she knows from somewhere hidden in the belly of her 4'9" body. 4'9" body indicates the physique of her grandmother. And instead of Awonke, she greets us with bye-bye. Now, what is Awonke? Awonke is actually the traditional method of greeting someone in Nigeria. Just like we have Namaste in India, Awonke is a greeting phrase that is used in Nigeria. But the grandmother thinks that her granddaughter, that is Bassey Ikpi, would not be able to understand the word Awonke. So she tries to greet with the English that she knows, with certain English word that she knows. And what she knows, what is the English word that she knows? It's bye-bye. So it seems awkward to someone else, but to her grandmother, bye-bye is some kind of a phrase that is used for greeting people. Usually bye-bye is a word that you use to bid farewell to people, right? So the opposite word is used. So it suggests her ignorance of knowledge in English. But still she tries to communicate in that language. That's her willpower. That's her attitude towards maintaining relationships. And instead of Awonke, she greets us with bye-bye, beckoning us into her thin clay-colored arms. As she is getting old, she is physically weak, and the color of the skin is significant. Clay-colored arms. Now, when Bassey Ikpi and her parents migrated to the United States of America, that is Oklahoma, we see that Oklahoma is a place in America which is filled with whites only. It's said in an interview that Bassey Ikpi was the only black child in the school. So here indicates the colored racist tendencies of America, right? They regard the Afro-Americans to be inferior to the white American people. So what her grandmother is doing is she's beckoning us into her thin clay-colored arms. She's trying to ask the grandchildren to come to her arms, clay-colored arms. She has my mother's face etched with time. Now, even though there is a kind of difference in the communication perspective of grandmother and the grandchildren, there are similarities too. Her physical features do look exactly like my mother, etched in time. Etched means just like a sculptor sculpts the statue. So as time goes, as she gets old, there might be certain features that might look certain bit different from her mother right now. She's too old and she's almost similar to Bassey Ikpi's mother. Peers at me from eyes wide and dark like mine. Now she looks at her granddaughter. Grandmother looks at her granddaughter, peers at me, right? Looks at me from eyes wide and dark like mine. So usually we see that African ladies are dark colored people, and usually they have wide and dark eyes, and that wide and dark eyes looks the same like mine. Next stanza, let us look in the next stanza. I walk into these arms, the ones that mothered my mother, taught her how to mother me. Now these two lines signify the interpersonal relationship that these Nigerian people actually enjoyed. Like for them, family is a kind of divine thing, right? So I walk into these arms. Now there is a sense of attraction between the grandchildren and the grandmother, the ones that mothered my mother, who taught her how to mother me. Right. So there is a kind of mother feeling when I go into the arms of my grandmother. There is a sense of affection, there is a sense of caring that I get, just like my mother taught me how one should be like a mother. So this is ironic statement compared to the United States of America, because the United States of America is a country, I'm not blaming that country as such, but still every household family in the United States of America treats their children that in this manner, that when they reach the age of 18, they are supposed to find their own way of life, right? So it is purely individualistic. But on the other hand, the Nigerian culture that Bassey Ikpi had was somewhat familial, right? So she taught her how to mother me, right? Inhale the history from her skin. Through that I could inhale the culture. History in the sense I could understand the culture of Nigeria, that is inclusiveness, that is the importance of family relationship that they maintained in Nigeria. I could inhale, I could breathe the history from her skin. She reminds me of the little girl, bow-legged and round-faced, holding roasted corn in one hand and a fistful of chin-chin in the other, still begging for orange Fanta to wash it all down. So she reminds me of my childhood days. Who reminds whom? The grandmother reminds Bassey Ikpi of Bassey Ikpi's childhood days, when she used to hold a roasted corn. Now you can see in the picture, this is the picture of roasted corn, right, in one hand, and a fistful of chin-chin. Chin-chin is another kind of food that we see in Nigeria. There you can see in the picture over here, right? So it's similar to dal like thing that we use before drinks. Right, chin chin is often used with drinks. In the other, still begging for orange Fanta. Orange Fanta is another soft drink that they drink, Fanta, right? Orange Fanta, to wash it all down. I play with that orange Fanta. So she reminds me of those beautiful, memorable days that I used to enjoy eating, drinking, and making merry. I remember her voice firm yet loving. There is another point to be noted. Her voice was firm. She could order. She could make orders, but still she was very loving. Very firm indicates she had a very strong voice. She was not weak then. Right, but yet loving. Bassey Ikpi. Agi, Awai are words in Nigeria which resembles a princess or beauty, or what you say. You just address your daughters in a very, very princely status, right? So my beautiful princess, that's how she grandmother states Bassey Ikpi. Bassey, Ari, Awai, my beautiful princess, you must eat, then drink. Now when she's playing with that orange Fanta, the grandmother is actually telling her that you must eat. You must eat your chin chin, you must eat your roasted corn, and then drink orange Fanta. Sometimes I forget, but she remembers the small scared girl carried away on an iron bird to America. Sometimes I forget. So there are times that I forget. Now she's coming back. There are times that I forget all these memorable moments that I had. But she remembers the small scared girl. But my grandmother remembers me, who was really scared during that time when I was 4 years old. Really scared girl. Carried away at on an iron bird. Iron bird indicates plane, aeroplane. Right, just like a bird, it flies like. So carried away on an iron bird to America. So that moment of her departure from Nigeria to America is really possessed in the grandmother's mind, and she always remember her. Seems like that same bird has returned only to replace her. Now when I go to Nigeria, I imagine myself to be that loving nightingale or bird which resembles my grandmother. I would be like my grandmother when I return to Nigeria. That perfect girl with me, the feminine quality that I have. This strange tongue-tied woman in sense, the language that I speak now, the English language that I speak now is absolutely strange to me. The strange tongue, that is the English language, tied woman. The one that can barely say hello. So, Bassey Ikpi, when she enters America at the age of 4, she took almost 1.5 years to learn English language. Only after 5 years, after maybe two years, she tries to learn the English language. So it took me a whole lot of time to say hello, without the clicks and moans, the dips and tones of the white man's language. So the white man's language is English here, and English should be said, the pronunciation, the intonation patterns, all the things are sophisticated in the white man's language. She listens now as I struggle with Adam. Right. So my grandmother listens to me with whatever words that I use which would be strange to my grandmother. My grandmother listens to me very carefully, making a gesture like thing that she has understood everything. It breaks my heart to realize that I can only love her in English. That's a very poignant statement there, very heartbreaking statement there. So Bassey Ikpi is really heartbroken. Why? It breaks my heart to realize that I can only love her clearly in English. So I have been in the United States for almost 30 years and I have forgotten my native language such a way that I cannot communicate properly with my grandmother in a language that she understands more. She doesn't know English, but still I can only express my love to her only in English because Nigerian language has faded away from me. Thank you all for listening to the first part of the poem Homeward, written by Bassey Ikpi. The second part of the video would be soon followed the next day. Thank you all.